Hey, I'm Mia Hemstad. I'm a wife, I'm a mom of 2 kids, and I'm a trauma-informed self-care coach. I also live with diagnosed PTSD and depression. I started sharing my mental wellness journey online in 2017 when I was diagnosed with postpartum depression and anxiety. And since then, I've heard from hundreds of women who all struggle with the same thing, putting ourselves last. This is a struggle that's keeping so many women burned out and unhappy, through no fault of our own, by the way. I've been working on my own healing as an abuse survivor since 2013. But when I became a mom, I really started to do the inner work of figuring out why I was putting myself last and how to start prioritizing myself for the first time in my life. This podcast is about sharing all of those lessons with you. So if you're interested in hearing honest stories, life advice, and inspiration that encourages you to make your health, happiness, and well-being a priority, then definitely stick around. Welcome to your No Longer Last journey. Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast. I'm excited because this is the last part in the Thrive as a Working Mom series, and today I'm going to be focused on how to expand your village. We have all heard this so many times. We need to be raising our kids in villages. We were meant to be raising our kids in villages, but there are no villages because the modern age is such a way that we don't live next to our family of origin, or we are becoming more psychologically aware of generational trauma, toxic dynamics, bad behavior, and some of us, like myself, have chosen to be no contact from certain family members in order to protect my well-being and the well-being of my family. So regardless of why your village might be a lot smaller than what is ideal, regardless, it's important to learn how to rebuild your village so that you can raise your family and live your life in as supported a dynamic as possible. Because when we are more supported, we are healthier, we are happier, we are able to show up for our life and our responsibilities from a much more replenished and whole place. So if you're new here, I'm Mia. I have 2 kids and I have been working professionally for 10 years. I'm currently a communications director at a national nonprofit, the Maternal Mental Health Leadership Alliance, and I also run this part-time, my self-care coaching business and podcast. So I have been working full-time or part-time since my kids were infants. So I have a lot of practice with how to thrive as a working mom because I have a lot of experience with not thriving and burning out and becoming exhausted and sick and ill and all the things. So I have been sharing in this 3-part series all of the best tips that I can give you so that you can also thrive as a working mom. And I'll link the other episodes in the show notes below. So without further ado, what's my first tip to expand your village? Well, I wanted to divide these ideas into 3 categories. There's high cost support ideas, mid cost support ideas, and low cost to no cost support ideas. And I wanted to do this because in today's day and age, honestly, expanding your village looks like investing in it financially. And I know that a lot of us hate that idea. Trust me, I hated it too. I grew up very poor. So the idea of having to spend money on any help is really hard because I kept comparing myself to I have a friend whose mom lives next door and she comes over and helps all the time. Or I have a friend whose cousins are there and they help babysit and blah, blah, blah. If you do that, you're going to be stuck in this trap where you're always exhausted, always burnt out, always unsupported, and always unhappy because you're comparing what you don't have to what somebody else has. And I understand that because I have I'm no contact with most of my family. So trust me, I understand their frustration, but the sooner you can accept your situation and move forward, the sooner you'll be able to find solutions and start living your life in a much healthier way. So I'm going to cover 3 different categories of ideas that you can get support, and I'm going to divide them by cost, starting with high cost. High cost support ideas. First one is a house manager. I do not personally have this, but I plan to have one soon. I finally am at a place where I see how valuable it would be to have a house manager, especially now that my husband is also going to be working full time. Having somebody come in, even for just 2 hours a day to run errands or reset the house or cycle through a load of laundry would be hugely helpful. And I know in our minds, we're like, oh my God, this is probably going to be a huge amount of money. But if you have someone who comes just 10 hours a week, let's say you pay them $20 an hour, that's about $800 to $1,000 a month depending on how much they cost per hour or how many hours you have them. And I know $800 to $1,000 a month is way more than most people can afford. This is a high cost support idea. And again, if you are a dual income household, having someone come for a couple hours every day could save you and your partner a lot of fighting, a lot of stress, a lot of frustration. And I really think that our generation, millennials and Gen X, the people who are raising kids right now, need to start valuing protecting our mental health a lot more. We need to be the generation that finally sees the value of protecting our mental health and do what's needed to protect that, our relationships, our mental health, our well-being. If having a house manager 2 hours a day can help you and your partner function in a healthier way with less stress, it's worth it. Another high cost support idea is having a nanny. Obviously, this is very straightforward, but I know people who, their kids are in childcare and they still have a nanny come. And I think that's great because it's nice to have an extra pair of hands in the evening, especially if your kids still require you to shower them and brush their teeth and, floss. And there's so much to do every single day when you have little kids. It would have been amazing to have an extra pair of hands. Maybe I would have showered more often. Maybe I would have changed my clothes out of my pajamas during the day. Maybe I would have taken a nap instead of becoming extremely sleep deprived and depressed. So I think even if in a season when your kids are really young, let's say from 0 to 3, you have a nanny come and be a part of your life and then maybe phase the nanny out as your kids enter kindergarten or preschool, I think that can be hugely helpful. Okay, some mid-cost support ideas. We have a robot vacuum. This is huge, okay? A robot vacuum can cost between $200 to $400. I mean, there's obviously fancier ones, but I remember there was 1 month in my coaching program where I was encouraging everyone to treat themselves to some bougie self-care. And bougie self-care, as defined by me, is not just like handbags and getting your nails done. It's anything that feels luxurious to you. So when I told my clients, one of my bougie self-care was buying a robot vacuum, everyone was surprised at first. They thought I was going to say, got a massage or I went to a hotel. No, I got a robot vacuum. And the most amazing thing about it was I was spending 45 minutes every other day after my kids went to bed, vacuuming the living room and kitchen because of the amount of food on the floor from my toddlers. It was a lot. And once I got that robot vacuum, I would do the dishes, turn the robot vacuum on, and all of a sudden I had 45 minutes back into my day. And I started to use that time to take a hot bath with Epsom salts and essential oils. And that time was so needed because my kids were finally in bed, the house was finally quiet, and I could just have that time soothing my aching muscles and hearing myself think for the first time all day. And it was brought to me by the robot vacuum. So to me, a robot vacuum was a huge luxury. It felt like a gift I gave to myself to give myself back time and energy and mental space. And it was so nice to have one less thing on my plate. So getting a robot vacuum is an incredible mid-cost support idea. And my robot vacuum is definitely a part of my village. Another mid-cost support idea is laundry service. You could have a weekly laundry service. People come, or you could drop it off once a week. That's huge. Listen, I would never give my delicates and my expensive underwear to a laundry service, but like everything else, all the towels, the sheets, the bedding, all the other clothes, the kids' clothes that they're going to grow out of and they're covered in stains anyway, let someone else clean that. And just do yourself a favor of calling them and figuring out how much it costs. You might surprise yourself with how affordable it is. And again, it's one less thing on your plate. So let's say you spend all Saturday morning, every Saturday, doing laundry all day and having the weight of, oh my God, I need to turn out the laundry. I need to switch the laundry. I need to switch the laundry. And someone else just comes and picks it up and does it and drops it off folded and clean and done. Now you have 3 more hours back in your Saturday. What could you do with that? Could you go on a hike with your friend? Could you go out for a coffee alone, a journaling date? Could you sleep in? Like maybe you and your partner could take turns taking a nap. Like there's so much ease and self-care that can be found when we just outsource one thing. And instead of thinking, oh, I could do that myself, think this is a part of my mental health toolbox. This is a part of my self-care toolbox. This is something I'm paying for so that I have time to take care of me. I like to say that mental health care is not just medication and therapy. Mental health care is anything we do that enables us to take care of ourselves. And if getting a robot vacuum and having weekly laundry service enables you to have time to get more sleep, to exercise, to do something fun, then it's absolutely a part of your mental health treatment plan. We need to stop thinking of health care as only things we do inside of a doctor's office or the pills we take from the pharmacy. We need to think about health care as everything and anything in our lives that enables us to take good care of ourselves. And one of the most important healthcare things that you can do for yourself are healthcare preventions, meaning activities or things that you do that prevent disease, prevent stress-related health issues, like exercising and taking a shower and brushing your teeth. All of these things, this is called preventative care. And people in our busy Western world do not have time for preventative care because we're too busy doing everything ourselves, vacuuming everything ourselves, doing the laundry ourselves, handling everything ourselves, taking care of the kids all of ourselves. We need a village, or we cannot engage in the preventative care that is self-care. So if you're feeling like you don't have time to take care of yourself, I'm going to ask you, what does your village look like? And are you resisting expanding your village because you're too busy comparing your village, or lack thereof, to Susan down the street who has a super supportive family? I'm going to urge you to let it go. Let go of what you do not have. Accept your situation as it is, and then work with what you've got. Because that is the only way you're going to take care of yourself. And that is the only way that you are going to enjoy this one life that you have. I got really passionate there. Let's dive into the next mid-cost support idea. Okay, meal prep support. This is something that I just brought on for the very first time. So I have somebody who's going to be coming on Sundays from 2 to 4:30 to help me and my husband meal prep. I like meal prepping. I hate cleaning up after it. I never have energy. So having another pair of hands to come in and also paying someone to come in ensures that I'm not going to skip meal prep. I have a plan now. It's going to be written down. We're all going to know what to make, and we're going to meal prep every week because now my husband's starting a full-time job after 5 years of not having a full-time job. So it's going to be a big transition for me and my family, and I don't want our healthy eating to be sacrificed because of us both working full-time. And again, this goes back to that preventative care. Eating healthy is a huge way that we take care of our health and our well-being. And I'm not going to sacrifice that simply because we have less time. I'm going to use some of the income we're bringing in to bring on some support so that we can make that happen. So meal prep support is a great way to make sure that something as important as healthy eating happens on a regular basis. Another idea is getting a weekly house cleaner. They can come every other week, monthly, quarterly, whatever. But having house cleaning help is huge. I used to spend my entire Saturday cleaning my house and then felt very resentful and irritated with my family that the house was always a mess and it was always on me to clean. And yeah, they would get involved, but I was constantly like pushing them and pushing them and pushing them and pushing them. And now I have someone who comes once a week and she cleans the house. And now I have time on Saturday to go to the beach, to take a nap. And that's what I've been doing, honestly. Like I've been napping more or going on longer walks. Or 2 weeks ago, I went to the beach by myself. I read a chapter in my book. I took a nap on the beach. I went to my favorite cafe and got a smoothie bowl. It was amazing. And I just feel like this is what I wish more moms would do, is just find ways to give themselves back more time so that we can take care of the needs that only we can take care of, right? Because I know that laying in the beach and reading a book and spending some time alone really refuels me and replenishes me. But I can't do that without feeling stressed unless I hire someone to basically replace me and the work that I'm going to do. And yeah, my husband could take it on, but what he loves to do on Saturday mornings is play with our kids. That's one of the things that I love about him is he doesn't struggle with like putting aside household chores in order to prioritize quality time with the kids. Whereas for me, I feel like the work has to get done because who's going to do it? And then I'm like, okay, then I can play with the kids. So by having somebody come in and help us with that, he doesn't have to sacrifice time with the kids. I don't have to sacrifice time with the kids, and I get to replenish myself and come back to my family feeling a lot more energized. And then the last mid-cost support idea is getting quarterly declutter and organization support. Listen, not only do all of us struggle with overconsumption, but I feel like with kids, every quarter, every 3 months, they need a declutter because they're growing and they stop fitting things. Their interests change, and all of a sudden an entire set of toys doesn't matter to them anymore. They're constantly bringing home papers from school, and it takes me all day to sort and organize. And Next time, I'm going to bring in the help of, again, my mom friend who does domestic work and ask her to help me, because clearing out all of their toys, shoes, clothes, papers, and then dusting everything and vacuuming everything was so much work. It took all day, and I literally had a backache from that for 2 weeks after. And so from now on, once a quarter, I'm just going to hire someone to come in and help me so that I'm not doing it by myself. And I involve my kids and my husband, and that makes it take longer, but I want my kids to learn how to organize, how to declutter, and the value of that. So again, it's like, why am I taking this all on myself to become irritated and in pain and frustrated and resentful when I can invest some money into bringing someone in to help me so that I don't have all of the overwhelm, the decision fatigue, and the work of handling all of this by myself. Okay, now we're going to pivot to low cost to no cost support ideas. Number one, grocery delivery. Love grocery delivery. I remember when I started doing that in the pandemic, and I felt like I had 3 more hours in my week because I wasn't driving to the store, shopping, packing up the groceries, coming home, unloading it, having to haul it up my apartment with the elevator over and over, like 3 trips. Those Costco trips, they're massive. So grocery delivery is an amazing time saver. If you haven't already started doing that, please try a way to make that happen. Monthly childcare for a self-care day for you. I had a client who had a babysitter come once a month so that she could take herself out to coffee, go shopping by herself, hear her own thoughts, sit in her car and eat her food. The therapy of being in your car alone without kids screaming at you. I thought that was beautiful. And I think what's beautiful about having a recurring day where someone's coming to help you is it gives you light at the end of the tunnel. If you're having a really rough month, you know that time for you is coming, and that can give you so much peace and can help you handle the next tantrum, the next work challenge, the next difficulty, the next busy season, because you know that you have breaks built in. You have support coming. You have made sure your village is locked in. That is huge, okay? The next thing is a quarterly house cleaner. Again, I'm going to keep bringing up the house cleaner thing. So many moms are like, yeah, but I can do it myself, blah, blah, blah. Yes, you can. But even if you have someone come once a quarter to deep clean, that's going to be huge for you. It's going to be work off your back and work off of your partner's back. Just invest in it and see the spaciousness in your life open up and the time to take care of yourself come back to you. And then another idea I wanted to share is childcare swap. This can be harder to do, but I really wanted to mention it because if you have zero budget, doing a childcare swap can be super helpful. And I've been doing this with one of my friends and it's been really helpful. Of course, you have to feel super comfortable and trusting of the person you're swapping with, and there has to be a lot of communication, but I think it can be super helpful because then you can meal prep, run errands, clean whatever you need while your kids are having a play date with somebody else, and that can be so helpful. And I think in general, especially in this modern society, we need to be better about asking for help and risking the rejection, risking feeling embarrassed, because we need to help each other. We need to ask for a village and be the village. We need to support each other in that way. And then lastly, I wanted to mention in-person and online support groups. Support groups are so helpful. I cannot tell you how powerful it is to be surrounded by people who understand your experience. It could be a codependency support group, an Alcoholics Anonymous support group, a no contact family support group, a religious trauma recovery support group. It could be a new mom support group. There are so many support groups out there. If you just Google what you're looking for plus support group plus your location, you will find something. And whether it's virtual or in person, I recommend having some emotional support in your village so that you can be around people who understand your experience and you can learn from each other. And the bottom line, you can feel less alone. I think we underestimate how important it is to not feel alone in whatever we're going through, okay? It's so important, whether you have a child who's medically complex, whether you are dealing with, there's even support groups for multicultural families. So like maybe you're dealing with racism from one side of your family. Maybe you're dealing with religious trauma recovery. Like there's so many support groups out there so that you can feel less alone in whatever you're going through. And that's going to help you with your health, your well-being, and how you show up in life, because carrying burdens alone and feeling alone in them is heavy. It is so heavy and it's just not healthy. It's not good for you to do. So I know that we've all been lied to that we can just be strong and white knuckle ourselves through life, but That is not the way it's meant to be. We are meant to be in a village. We are meant to support each other. Unfortunately, we live in a world now where a lot of us have to pay for the village. And trust me, like, there was a time I had $0 to do any of this, but I wish I still was more open to asking for help. I wish that I refinagled my finances to prioritize the village when my kids were younger, because I burned myself out really bad and I barely have memories of that time. And I want to remind you that whatever support you bring in, if it feels huge and impossible, remember that it doesn't need to be permanent. It could be temporary. It could be for a season. Like I said, I think it's really important that parents prioritize a village when their kids are under 5 years old, but especially under 3 years old, because that time is really intense and it can really quickly turn into a very stressful, exhausting time if you don't make sure you're supported. So that's one of my biggest regrets looking back at my early motherhood, is I really wish that I prioritized the village during that time. And speaking of, my next video is going to be about how to prepare for a healthy postpartum. I'm going to be sharing my top 5 tips. I've had 2 kids. I've gone through so much postpartum, including depression and anxiety postpartum. And I have learned a lot. And I also work at an organization that's dedicated to helping pregnant and postpartum mothers have the healthy outcomes. So this is something that I live and breathe literally all day, every day. And I'm excited to share my top 5 tips with you. So make sure you're subscribed so that you get notified when that episode drops. So that wraps up our How to Thrive as a Working Mom series. I hope you found it helpful. I would love to hear your feedback. And if you have any questions, things I didn't cover, things you want me to dive into more, let me know. Drop a comment and I'm happy to think about whether or not to do it, because I really want this content to be responding to you guys and what you need. So I appreciate your feedback. All right. Thanks for spending time with me, and I will see you next time. Bye. This podcast was produced by Aura 17.